quite an interesting game tonight here in the Dean Dome. For Eric Woods, and I'm Caleb Jarreau. We are here in Chapel Hill with the Daily Beacon, and we watched Tennessee come back from a very large deficit to make it a smaller deficit and then still lose.
Yep.
Eric, what's your biggest takeaway from tonight?
I mean, first half, they were really bad in the first half. That's all I can say. I mean, the four big ones: turnovers, fouls, defensive glass, I guess.
All of the above glass.
All of the
really.
above glass, yeah. And then, I mean, if you don't, they shot really well tonight. And
yeah, but you didn't play defense.
You didn't play defense, and that was under Rick Barnes. You don't see that often, and I mean, Rick did not hide his words tonight. He used the word baffled about how many times, a lot. So I mean, it's very uncharacteristic. The conditions for this game weren't the greatest, I guess. I mean, you're coming back from Honolulu, and you.
Off two losses, too, which can affect it.
Yeah.
But like you said, a Rick Barnes team, you expect them to play defense. And there's a lot of stats that aren't good that came out. I mean, Barnes' most points given up in the first half, or Tennessee's most points given up in the first half at all since 2006, I believe was the number. The largest deficit under Barnes at Tennessee at halftime. Josiah Jordan-James said he had never seen Rick Barnes that mad at halftime, and I don't blame him. They were down by a lot, and it was probably the worst half of basketball they played. Rick Barnes said he was looking at his assistants just wondering what players were on the floor. He had never coached players like that, players that just those weren't his guys that were playing that bad tonight in the first half. And you turn it around in the second half, largely thanks to Dalton Knecht, who tied the record for the most points scored in this building.
By an opponent.
Yeah, by an opponent. And there's been a lot of points, or a lot of good players that have played in this building. So that's something to say there. Unfortunately, Dalton Knecht's night ends right there when he steps on another player's foot and rolls his left ankle. He didn't put any weight on it. People who are on the sideline said they heard a pop in his ankle. We have no update besides the fact that he rolled it and he's not walking on it. So obviously not what you want to see after this game. Tobe Awaka and Freddie DeLeon, the fifth, were both also inactive tonight with injury. The injury bug is spreading, not to the players Tennessee wants it to spread to. They don't have a lot of depth at that position. Eric, I mean, really tonight we saw Cade Phillips put in a lot of minutes at the 5, and that's not really what this team is best whenever that happens. So what's your biggest takeaway, I guess, from Dalton Knecht and all of the above?
I mean, I've never been so impressed, but like in person, I guess, by a college basketball player. I mean, he was taking the ball up the court, dribbling right down here, taking it up for a layup every time, and they had to double him just to stop him, and that opened up a lot for the other guys, and that's one of the things that he brings to this team, and that's one of the things you lose without him. And I mean, I can't imagine it. It didn't seem to be season-ending, obviously.
You hope not, at least.
You hope not.
For both Tennessee and Dalton Knecht. Because
to me, the pop is a sprained ankle, because back in my days, I had a pop and it was a sprain. So
it's the sprained ankle that kept you from the league.
Exactly. That's why I'm here, not here before
but I mean,
the game. So.
You mentioned Dalton Knecht getting doubled both at half court when he ran up the floor and in the paint, and that, I mean, if you're getting doubled, somebody's open. But they shoot 9 of 28 from 3. And the shooting percentage overall wasn't terrible, but you want to hit those open threes. And when you look on the other side, that's what North Carolina did well.
Yeah.
Somebody asked Rick Barnes tonight if rotations were the issue, and that's why so many three-point shooters were open. And he said that the rotations weren't an issue because they just weren't rotating. So that leaves open guys. And unfortunately for Tennessee, North Carolina shot 12 of 28 from 3, 28 from 61 from the field. And they went 32 of 38 from free throw line.
Yeah.
We see a trend now with these teams. And yes, I mean, you look at the Purdue game, the officiating was horrible. But you see a trend.
Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I didn't think it was, I mean, I thought what they called were fouls, honestly.
They just called everything a foul.
Yeah, they did call everything.
So, I mean, that's questionable. So that's why, I mean, you look at that game, you can't really say that Tennessee fouled a ton or gave up so many free throws because Purdue did the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Tonight, you're starting to see a trend where maybe Tennessee is fouling a little too much. And Rick Barnes called out Santiago Vescovi, who scored 0 points tonight. Tennessee put up 92 points, and he scored 0, and Jemai Mashak scored 2.
Yeah.
You can't have that, especially when you're calling on Jemai to run point guard. Zakai started at point guard tonight, though, and kind of gotten back into a rhythm. So I guess we'll
hit a big three.
Yeah. So I guess we'll try to end on a high note, because that when they come back out on the floor, they'll play George Mason. I assume we'll have enough to talk about there.
Yeah.
But end on a high note. What did you think about Zakai's performance tonight and kind of him getting back into form?
I mean, you still saw a little bit of growing pains in the first half, as did the whole team, I guess. But in Monday's media availability, the question to Rick was like, would would putting him in the starting lineup get him more comfortable? And I mean, I think it's safe to say the answer was yes. You saw him. I mean, there's still a little bit that he's missing, like which he's always done it, shoot bad shots. But
But you like that aggressiveness from your point guard.
He had 9 points tonight and
3 of 8 from the field, 2 threes.
7 assists. So
his plus-minus was good, and when you look at a guy like Jemai Mashak, who Rick Barnes called out, he was negative 22. So I'm sure you're the same way, Eric. I'll take bad Zakai shots over the negative 22 Jemai and 2 points tonight. But
and I do want to talk a little bit about Santi because, I mean, it's really
4 fouls, too.
I don't know the last time he scored, if he's ever scored 0 points in his college career outside of, like, which he hasn't gotten injured much.
And his total line is 0 for 1, 1 rebound, 4 fouls, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 steals, and negative 14 in 14 minutes on the floor. So, like you said, coming into this year, you thought he'd be a leader. And, I mean, all of his career, he's played his best, I feel, when he was a role player, when you only needed him to shoot threes, not when you needed him to ball handle. And this year especially, like we talked about earlier, Dalton Knecht's getting doubled. You want a guy like Santiago Vescovi standing right there, wide open to shoot a 3. And we didn't see that tonight. He didn't even take a 3.
Yeah, Rick Barnes said it was complacency, and you kind of see it. Like, last year you saw him, he's going all around the floor, but this year he's kind of just catching it, passing it back, or you don't see him
the off-ball movement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which makes a great shooter great, you know, and you're not seeing that anymore, and it's really hurting him. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's just struggling to adjust to, because he kind of had to take a lead scoring role last year towards the end, and now it's kind of back to his old
He did
role.
miss a little bit of preseason camp too, because he had to go back home to Uruguay. Whatever the issue is, and Barnes, his frustration was clear tonight, the issue needs to be fixed, because for this team to play at its best, especially now that you have Dalton Knecht likely out, we don't know how long he'll be out, but I assume at least a couple weeks, 3 weeks would be a
That's fair.
likely case, the month of December maybe. You needed somebody like Santiago Vescovi to kind of fill that void, because nobody on this team can score 37 like Dalton Knecht can tonight. So you're going to need every player to add 3, 4, 5, 6 more points to their total. And for Santiago Vescovi, that means adding 6 to 0. So I'm with you. I didn't see the off-ball movement tonight. Obviously, Rick Barnes didn't see it. And I felt like that's when he was at his best last year, was when he was getting open off the ball, when Zakai was healthy, and Zakai could hit him for an open 3. You need that 3-point shooting. They didn't have it tonight. Lost. Battled back at the end. Everybody echoed how proud they were of the battle. At the end of the night, you still come away with an L against the number 18 team in the country. So in March, it might come back to bite them for seed. But right now, I feel like you just got to get healthy, regroup, and take it to George Mason on Tuesday.
Rick Barnes ended the press conference with, "We're good. We're a good basketball team."
Yep.
So
we'll end ours with the same thing.
Yeah.
Tennessee's good. If they'll make a run or beat the big teams is yet to be determined. But they've got the talent to do so. So
for sure.
For Eric Woods, I'm Caleb Jarreau from Chapel Hill, reporting for the Daily Beacon Sports Podcast Network.